As excited as I am for the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, and I am very, very excited for this phone, there is one thing about it that is definitely worrying me, and it's not the one that I'm sure most of you are typing away in that comment section down below. Despite the fact that the screens are getting larger and the battery is staying the same size, 4400 milliamp hours, and the charging speed is likely staying the same, 25 watts, I am not worried about the battery life on the Z Fold 7 at all. And a big reason for that is how much time I've spent over the last year with the Galaxy Z Fold 6. This device makes it through a day for me just fine. And yes, it's the same 4400 milliamp hour battery. Like I said, the screens are getting larger, so if we compare this to another device I've spent a lot of time with that has an 8-inch inner screen, should be right in the range of the Z Fold 7. This has a 4600 milliamp hour battery. This is the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. The battery life is a little bit worse than the Z Fold 6, but it still gets me through the day just fine. I might here or there drop it on a Pixel stand while I'm working here, but by and large, I can make it through a day without charging my Pixel. And this has a Tensor chip, and I do have more faith in Samsung using a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite in terms of overall efficiency. The modem should be more efficient. So my point here is, if this Pixel gets me through the day just fine with a 4600 milliamp hour battery, the Galaxy Z Fold 7 with a 4400 milliamp hour battery and a more efficient modem, and look, the Snapdragon 8 Elite, I know there might be some debate there, but I just feel like it's going to be a more efficient chip than the Tensor G4. It's a 3nm process, it's got a better modem. I think it's going to be fine. Is it going to have the same kind of battery life that my Oppo Find N5 has? No, absolutely not. Is it going to be able to charge as fast as my Oppo Find N5? Absolutely not. Would I like to have both of those things? Of course I would. But is this my concern for the Z Fold 7, that it's just going to be dead halfway through the day? Based on my experience with these other devices, no, it just isn't. So what is my concern? I'm sure you've already heard the rumors that the Galaxy Z Fold 7 is going to be swapping out that 50 megapixel primary sensor for a 200 megapixel primary sensor. Now, it's probably not the same 200 megapixel sensor that we have inside the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. There's a chance that it's a slightly smaller sensor, but nonetheless, it should be a pretty decent improvement for this phone. But I think that by upgrading the primary sensor, they might be ignoring the sensor that actually needs some help, and that's the telephoto. If we look at the specifications here, this telephoto is 10 megapixels, which is not particularly high resolution at all in 2025. It is 3x optical zoom, which is not a very large amount of zoom. I think 3x is fine if the resolution is quite high. We'll talk about that more here in just a second. But it's also 1/3.94 inches. It's a tiny little sensor. And the result that you get from this is a telephoto shot that in anything but the best possible lighting ends up looking quite noisy and quite grainy. And if you try to push it beyond 3x, where you're doing a digital crop, the quality begins to drop very, very rapidly. And as someone who has been using for the last good while the 5x optical zoom on the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, or the 3x optical zoom on the Oppo Find N5, which is of much better quality because the sensor is larger and it is higher resolution, or the OnePlus Open, which that's even more true of. It's an even larger sensor. It's also very high resolution compared to the Z Fold 6 sensor. If they're keeping that same sensor, that is going to be a very hard adjustment for me. I use that telephoto zoom all the time. I'll give you a good example. Just the other day, we're going for a morning walk and there's a bird hanging out on a power line down a little ways away from us, and I can't quite recognize what this bird is. So I pulled out my Oppo Find N5 and I zoomed in like 60x, 65x, something insane like that. And I'm able to snap a photo and then quickly identify what that bird is. Had I had my Galaxy Z Fold 6, or presumably the Galaxy Z Fold 7, which is apparently going to be using the same telephoto sensor, that's just not going to be a thing. I'm not going to be able to zoom in far enough with high enough quality for that to be possible. And then you also have the fact that using a 200 megapixel sensor as the primary kind of makes that 3x optical zoom redundant. Because even the 50 megapixel sensor can do 2x digital zoom without losing a whole lot of detail. If you have that very high resolution 200 megapixel sensor, you could easily crop in 3x and still have a pretty darn high quality shot. So why do we even have that 3x zoom? Would we not be better suited having a 3.5 or maybe a 4 or a 5x? Of course we would. One of the reasons I really enjoy the camera setup on the S25 Ultra is because 1x looks great, 2x looks great. When you hit 3x, it does swap to a 3x telephoto sensor, which is a little bit better than what we have on the Z Fold 6. By virtue of that, 4x still looks pretty good. When you hit 5x, it swaps to another telephoto sensor, which looks quite good. And then I would say up to about 10x, things do look pretty solid. So no matter where you are in the zoom range, things look pretty good. And of course, you can zoom out and there's an ultra wide. So from 0.6 up to 10x, things are going to look pretty good. On this hypothetical Z Fold 7, 1 should be good, 2 should be good, 3 should be fine, 4 should be okay, 5 is a little less than okay, 6, 7, 8, 9. You see where I'm going. Things are going to trail off. If I compare that to something like my Oppo Find N5, it's just going to be worse. At the lower zoom, 1, 2, 3, things are probably going to be quite competitive. But from 4 on, the Z Fold 7 is just going to lose that battle. And all they had to do was make that 3x sensor better, make it a larger sensor that can gather more light, less noise, less grain, more detail, and they could have been right there with some of these other brands. But they haven't apparently done that. And that is my biggest concern. Now, guys, I do know that this is a highly subjective thing. You may very rarely use zoom. For someone like me who is a big wildlife lover, I love being outside and seeing birds and insects and other things and zooming in and taking shots of them to see what they're up to and log them in my iNaturalist application. I love having an exquisite zoom capability on my folding phone. So the idea of leaving that behind to at least a large degree is problematic for me. But again, you might feel totally different. So for you, the zoom is not a concern and it's all about battery life, and you absolutely have to have the best possible battery life. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that these are my concerns. But maybe you have a third different concern that you would like to share in those comments down below. Do feel free to go ahead and do that. Also, feel free to hit that subscribe button before you go so that you don't miss out on more content just like this. Of course, I will be buying that Fold 7 as soon as it is available and reviewing it and talking about it ad nauseum here on this channel. So you're not going to want to miss that if you love these sorts of nerdy folding phone videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.